It's a good thing you can't actually kill Dracula, otherwise Konami would have to stop making these great Castlevania games. Hi, I'm Greg Kasavin and I'm going to tell you all about Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the GBA. It's the third Castlevania game for the Game Boy Advance and it's arguably the best one. It must be said though that Aria of Sorrow does very closely follow the blueprint used by its predecessors, Harmony of Dissonance, Circle of the Moon, and even 1997's Symphony of the Night. Basically, Konami has been reusing the same formula and even much of the same artwork and gameplay mechanics for years and years now. But really, it stands as testament to the success of this formula and the quality of this gameplay that even after all these years, it still totally holds up. Aria of Sorrow being the latest example of just how much fun these open-ended, side-scrolling, kind of gothic-themed action-adventure games can be. Aria of Sorrow is a lot like its predecessors, but it's much more polished in certain ways. The gameplay is kind of sleeker and more elegant, more refined. It just makes certain nice, subtle changes that make this particular Castlevania game better in a lot of ways than either Harmony of Dissonance or Circle of the Moon. The game looks and sounds better than either of those two games, and it also just has certain nice trimmings to it, like when you save your progress at one of the save points, it's faster than in the previous games, and when you check your inventory or switch to the map screen, that comes up a lot quicker. They're these subtle things that just help make the feel of the game better. The esoteric card system from Circle of the Moon and sort of the limited magic system from Harmony of Dissonance has been replaced here by this sort of soul-stealing system. The main character of the game is named Soma Cruz. He early on gains the ability to absorb the souls of his enemies. By absorbing their souls, he can then use their powers against them, essentially. It works pretty simply. Basically, whenever you kill an enemy, there's a percentage chance that you're going to absorb its soul and gain its powers. There are well over 100 different monsters in this game, so there are just tons and tons of these souls, and you basically equip them. They replace Castlevania's old sub-weapons, so if you destroy one of those skeletons that chucks bones at you, you might absorb its soul, and then you could chuck bones right back at them, or throw boomerang axes, or do all kinds of different things. On top of that, like in previous Castlevania games, Soma will gain a number of enhancements to his standard abilities. So he'll gain his double jump, he'll gain his slide tackle that lets him slide through narrow spaces. These abilities and others will let him access areas of Dracula's castle that he couldn't get to earlier. So again, Aria of Sorrow is much like previous Castlevania games where you'll be put forth into this big maze-like castle, mostly consisting of, long passageways and other enemy-infested areas. And you'll be able to go, seemingly wherever you want, but then you'll come to an impasse of some sort, like a chasm that you can't jump across, something like that, and you'll need to come back to it once you have the right powers, and then you'll be able to cross it and, fight the tough boss that's behind it and so forth. There are lots of cool enemies in this game. A number of the bosses are very big and very tough and look great. There's some very nice scenery in the backgrounds. The level design can be a little bit boring. Again, they're mostly just long hallways and some basic platform jumping. Even though this is the first Castlevania game that's technically set in the future, Dracula hasn't really done much to remodel his place in the year 2035, and it's kind of still all filled with, dining halls and dungeons and cathedrals and things like that. There really is very little evidence of anything futuristic in this game, so if you're worried that this is Castlevania in space, don't be. In addition to his soul-stealing powers, Soma can wield a huge variety of different weapons. They all look and act different on screen. Some are stronger than others, but others are balanced out, by being faster or maybe having a longer range or attacking in a wider radius. It's really surprising how many different weapons there are in the game, and it's a really refreshing change from Harmony of Dissonance, where the main character, Just, was stuck using his whip pretty much the whole time. Soma here can wield pretty much everything. He's got, hammers and a ton of different swords, daggers, and all kinds of very interesting stuff. Actually, there's almost more variety to this game than the game knows what to do with. It's not a particularly long game, and you'll finish it in about 10 hours, and you'll barely even get to use all the cool stuff that you find. So there's a lot of replay value just in kind of going around and collecting more of the souls and finding all the weapons, just so you can mess around with all this cool stuff. There's a GBA link-up feature so that you could trade souls with a friend to try to collect them all. It would have been nice if Konami went even further with this and included like a deathmatch mode or maybe even a cooperative mode or something like that. So there's definitely room for Castlevania to grow. As good as this formula is, you know, there's more that can be done to make these games even greater for the future. But for what it is, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow is just an excellent game. It's very much recommendable to any Castlevania fan. Even if you're used to the formula by now, you're really going to like what they did with it here. And if you've, by some chance, missed out on either of the last two Castlevania games, then again, you should definitely check this one out. You know, just on its own strengths, it's one of the better GBA action games around. It's right up there with last year's Metroid Fusion, for example, and you know, just really represents that 2D gaming is alive and well and just still as fun as it ever was. I suppose the argument could be made that Konami is just kind of regurgitating its successes and just recycling the same gameplay, but when you sit down and play Aria of Sorrow, you'll see that the gameplay is noticeably different. They did do more with it. They recycled all the best elements, you know, while adding some interesting new ones. This definitely, you know, plays differently, though similarly to previous Castlevania games. And this series is a classic with good reason. And Aria of Sorrow proves that Castlevania is in as good a form as it's ever been.